Ladies and gentlemen, viewers and gamers around the world, welcome to the Gamers 8 IESF Asian Championship happening right here in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia at the biggest gaming and esports festival, Gamers 8. I'm Bara Abdallah and Wajih. What's happening? What's going on?
يا أهلا وسهلا فيك أخوي براء، شكرا لك، حياكم الله جميعا أعزائنا الحضور ومشاهدينا الكرام في كل مكان، ورجعنا لكم في جيمرز 8 بطولة الاتحاد الدولي للرياضات الإلكترونية الآسيوية، وكلنا متحمسين على التجهيزات اللي في الأيام الجاية إيش ممكن يصير معانا، لأن الأيام الماضية كانت معانا الجروب ستيج أو دوري المجموعات، ولكن اليوم بنكون كلنا متحمسين إننا بندخل على النهائيات في لعبة موبايل ليجندز ودوتا 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Wajih has just mentioned right now, the last 2 days were phenomenal. Today, we're going to be the playoffs. We're going to see what's a lot going to happen here on this very own stage, a very own arena for esports, all together with skill, strategy, and sheer adrenaline taking place here at the Asian Championship. Everybody's competing to earn their place at the amazing and beautiful 15th IESF, the World Esports Championship in Romania. Yash, I am definitely jealous because the fact is, maybe I won't be able to be there as well. But you know, Gamers 8 is definitely happening.
أكيد لازم كل منتخب وكل شخص يثبت نفسه في هذه البطولة عشان يتأهل في بطولة العالم في رومانيا، وكلنا أكيد يعني نتمنى الخير لكل الفرق، ولكن بنشوف من اللي يقدر يثبت نفسه وياخذ المركز الأول في هذه البطولة. ولكن ما قلنا لكم أن من اليوم بتكون معانا لعبة دوتا 2 بيست اوف 3 بدل البيست اوف 1. فأكيد أخوي براء بتكون في فرص كثيرة للاعبين، في حالة صارت في أخطاء بسيطة في المباراة يقدرون يسترجعونها بسبب أنها بتكون بيست اوف 3. فما ودنا نطول عليكم، ودنا نروح للكاسترز عشان نشوف إيش ممكن يصير معانا في هذه المباراة.
As you mentioned, وجيه يعطيك العافية. Dota 2 we're gonna have best of 3 and not only one. So a lot could happen actually with that. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna pass it on to our amazing, phenomenal casters. Take it from here.
One purpose, one dream, one rhythm, one step closer to glory. They say history remembers the winner. So who will be the ones writing the future? The halls of power call for their kings. The ones who won't back down. The ones who believed. The ones who knew that over 100 nations can't be wrong. Join the fight between August 24th and September 3rd as Yash becomes the world's esports capital.
After 2 days of action-packed gameplay, we have found ourselves at day 1 of the playoffs here again at the Gamers 8 IESF Asian Championships, all leading to Romania. Again, I'm Naisu, joined with OSX. We've been bringing you the action for 2 days. Now day 3 is ahead of us. And there's a lot in store, I still feel like, OSX.
It's playoffs mode right here in Saudi Arabia. We're about to witness teams who hasn't been in the streamed broadcast. We have 2 amazing matches today, and this is one of the things that we're excited for. Up for paper and in for the results, we see just numbers.
Yeah.
Now we are about to see the real deal on how these teams would actually make their way through Romania.
I think, again, you already made the point, right? There is a ton of people I know, even that we have messaged us, right, online, saying, we can't wait to see Mongolia. Now, I know there was a stream somewhere around, you know, that had their game played online, but it wasn't on the English stream, right? And there was a lot of people looking for that. So this is the first glimpse for a lot of people, at least here for this tournament, to see what is Mongolia made of. I mean, again, there's already been pretty much posts online about this is the tournament's dark horse, right?
Oh, yeah.
They are...
Absolutely.
In terms of points and everything else, they're right there with the Philippines. So I think people are just waiting to see if they do match up against them later on in the tournament. But right now, they've got Kazakhstan to go against, who we also saw quite the performance from back even from day 1 on the stream.
Yeah, it's about building that suspense, the preparation. We haven't seen these 2 teams. So in order for them to meet, they have to beat Kazakhstan, if ever, and Philippines has to beat also Cambodia, whatever the odds are. But this is one way of creating that climb through the days in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's a lot of questions here to look forward to, right? And in just a little bit, the teams will be walking out when they're ready. But at the same time, you made a good point because it's Philippines and Cambodia later, right? And we did hear also from Chama what he had to say, right? He wanted that rematch against Mongolia. As we take a look at the standings here, this is where everything fell into place, right? From Group A, we have, of course, Mongolia, like we mentioned, even on the board against the Philippines in Group B. Then Cambodia, second place there with 4 points. Nepal had 2, and UAE, they were out. Now, also, I think we'll get a closer look at exactly what happened in the last chance game, which happened last night off stream as well. We'll take a look at Group B.
Now
Group B standings here.
Yeah, and to see all of what's happening, Philippines standing
there it is.
At first with 6 points, no losses. Kazakhstan at 4, KSA at 3. better late than never, so securing their spot also for Romania.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? When you look at just how the group stages went, I would say there was some, teams that had these expectations for a lot of people around the world watching, knew that they would fall into maybe some of those, that #1 spot. But that's why I'm saying the dark horse from Group A, Mongolia, I feel like naturally people were thinking it might be Cambodia that was there, right?
Yeah.
Now we're going to look at the brackets here again for the playoffs and how this is all going to be sorted out, right? Starting today with match #1 here, Mongolia and Kazakhstan. This is already going to just open the day on a blaze, basically, right? Because like I said, there is so much hype around this Mongolian team, and Kazakhstan has their work cut out for them, but they have the tools they need. And the second match today, OSX.
Yeah, we have Philippines versus Cambodia. We've seen how things turned around yesterday for this team, and the play style and identity keeps on growing in every matches. We have a lower bracket. We have match 3 for the coming matches, but this is a developing underdog story that we can witness today.
Yep.
So for me, Mongolia right now, we just can't wait to see how they perform right here in our live arena against Kazakhstan. We've seen how Kazakhstan did in the first day against KSA.
Yep.
Amazing 3 games. That's the best way to start their own IESF journey. But to think Mongolia, I'm considering as the guys like work hard in silence and make or let the noise be your success.
Yeah, and there's tons of noise like already, right? This is kind of something that we've been seeing. Also, again, just with this playoff kind of format, it is that double elimination. So technically, the teams here that will lose in these live stream matches will go and play later on, right? And that's going to happen, I believe, off stream.
Oh, yeah.
Now, later on, too, we have to keep an eye on, like I said, Cambodia and Philippines, right? Because I feel like obviously those two countries have faced off before quite a few times, but it's a little bit different now too. And I feel like there's also that added kind of grudge match that Chama's looking for in the rest of his team against Mongolia. But that, like you mentioned, the first matchup with Mongolia and Kazakhstan here, you got to say, there is still potential for the dark horse to be poisoned, right? In terms of a lot of the Filipino fans out there, they like to say the lason, right?
The lason, the
right
poison.
Now, right now that's Mongolia, but you can't count Kazakhstan out.
We can. On day #1, we were totally surprised how they approach all their
Reverse
games.
sweep.
First sweep, reverse sweep.
Reverse sweep.
At the first game, try to testing the temperature of that swimming pool, but on game #2 and 3, that's how they completely bounced back and rose up to every challenge. You're talking about how this could be a grudge match from the Philippines. Back in Cambodia, amazing crowd, amazing country. We've seen how they had this a bottleneck match.
Yeah.
We have Cambodia, we have Myanmar. These two countries go up against the Philippines by history and continuing tournaments around the globe. So there's no surprise that Chima could be in a revenge tour right now on what he wanted to do with his country. So exciting days ahead, exciting moments ahead for this one.
And again, the other thing you have to take note of is these teams have all secured their spot to Romania, right? Now what they're fighting for is obviously that prize pool, the divvied up prize pool for the top spots here. And, at that same point, it's also just kind of what happens here in the Asian Championship as they get prepped up, because we know there's a lot of eyes here specifically on this tournament leading into Romania, because Romania is going to be massive, man. There's so many teams and countries competing in that's going to be a spectacular event. And this is kind of like the preview, right? Like all these steps along the way to Romania have been a preview, and it's developed alongside the game. I think that's one of the biggest things that we've been talking about here over the course of the days, is just how the game has changed in general. And even before this, we were answering some questions about the emblem, the emblem systems, the talent systems, how that's kind of changed. And I think if you guys have been watching other tournaments, this tournament, ever since those updates came out, you can see already how things are developing, how things are changing.
It's grinding, limitless possibilities on how you want to mix and match. It's like cooking.
Yeah.
You put whatever you want to do, and it turns out it's a good result on your final dish.
Well,
so,
is it? I mean, you gotta have some skill to cook.
Yeah, you need to be. You
I
need
can
to have
cook an
some
egg.
experience. Yeah.
I can cook an egg.
I could cook noodles.
There you go.
Yeah, so we all
It's
have
a noodles.
noodles. It's a noodles. He can cook an egg. Yeah, we can pair it up and make some ramen.
Well, the point is even with the food, right? I don't know why. Always in MLBB, the English streams venture off into food topics, but you can actually relate it a lot to the game too. And in this sense, you have the emblem system, right? The talent system, how you can change things in and out, swap things in and out. And that's really what we've seen from these teams the past couple of days. Again, the unique combinations from the emblems alone, from Tier 3 to the Tier 1, have been amazing to see. You know, and now I believe the teams are ready to walk out to the stage. So let's throw it back over there to the main stage.
حياكم الله جميعا، شكرا لكم اخواني المعلقين. سمعنا كلامهم قديش كان مؤثر بخصوص مبارية اليوم، لانها بتكون عبارة عن اول مواجهة بالنهائيات. فاخوي براء، كلنا متحمسين نشوف هذه المباراة وبنعرف مين المنتخب الاول بيكون معنا في هذه المواجهة.
You got that right, Wedgie. We are hyped right now to pretty much start the first match happening here on the third day. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready. This team has proven itself, and now we're gonna see more action with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it. Make some noise for Mongolia!
تحية قوية لمنتخب منغوليا. منتخب منغوليا داخلين بقوة بخصوص المباراة هذه، انها بتكون عبارة عن اول مواجهة في النهائيات، ولكن حابين نتعرف على فريق خصمهم. تحية قوية لمنتخب كازاخستان.
Amazing stuff happening here, ladies and gentlemen. So let's hear it for Kazakhstan. Ladies and gentlemen, Wedgie, gamers and viewers around the world, this is gonna be a hype match like everybody else, as we've seen right here, but this one holds a sentimental value, as I see right now. These two teams are gonna showcase the best of the best. ولا ايش رايك يا وجيه؟
اكيد كل الفريقين لازم يثبتون انفسهم في هذه المواجهة، بالذات ان عندنا منتخبين ابدا ما هم سهلين. تتكلم عن منتخب منغوليا ضد كازاخستان، كلنا متحمسين لهذه المواجهة، فعشان كذا ودنا نروح للمعلقين مرة واحدة ونبدأ فيها المباراة.
You got that right. And now we're going to pass it on to our phenomenal casters. Take it away.
Bar and Wajid, thank you so much. The teams are ready. It looks like they're super focused, razored in, right? Again, this is now what a lot of people have been waiting for. Like Bara said, there's hype here, right? And there's some sentimental value, too, alongside with it. And specifically with Mongolia, right? I mean, again, this is... As we've gone through the tournament, every time we've had a team where we necessarily haven't seen them play yet on the live stream, there's this huge big question mark. But they have the stats that speak for themselves, right? Like you said, the work that they've put them up to this point, being pretty much undefeated in their group, right? And now you could just assume they're at the same power level, if you will, of the Philippines.
Yeah, 6-0, no losses. Completely surprising as the results while working in silence. That was Mongolia. About to witness more, and this is one thing that they have. They have an edge on something that they might want to use in this kind of battle against Kazakhstan. We've seen them do the assassin picks. We've seen them do the power picks of the EXP players as well. So with this kind of way, like how Kazakhstan would approach the side of the team of Mongolia, they could have like... They could be in a general state on who's going to ban here, who's going to be the main playmaker that they need to target in getting their all momentum going in game number 1.
Speaking of momentum, the other thing I'm wondering about, and we've been talking about this now for the past 2 days, is that sustained composition that we've seen the Philippines bring out so many times up to this point in their matches, in a couple different ways as well, and even throwing it back, I don't know, months and months ago, back to the Angeling combination, pairing it up if you want to complement it with having the Uranus there. You know, these are all viable options, but really, do we see one of these teams go that route, opt for that route? Because one of the biggest kind of questions for those lineups specifically is, how do we handle this? How do we handle that sustainability, that healing, all the shields in the world? Naturally, you're thinking Esmeralda, you know, and then early dominance ice. That's your best bet. But a lot of the times what we've seen, at least from the execution from the Philippines, is it's not enough, you know? So you mentioned this yesterday, OSX. You were talking about bursty lineups, right? And that's where you were kind of favoring towards even the roam options, like a Kadita, pairing it up with another burst type mage, right? And working with that. And we can dive more into that in a bit, but we are ready for the roster reveals here as well, so you guys can get to know these players. We're going to be starting off here with Mongolia. So we have ZX Aura, we have Bebe X, Ethan, Forbid, and Aizen. And I'll tell you this, man, there has been a lot of talk about that XP lane, Aizen, and the mid laner, Forbid, right? The way that they work together. We've seen some interesting combinations from their hero pools as well. But man, I'll tell you this, if Aizen gets his hands on that Terizla, who has been a hot pick up to this point, he's going to do some damage.
Yeah, the XP lane has been a great and viable laning, pace. That how will you dictate your own gameplay from early to mid? And this tells that Mongolia we have one thing. We're yet to discover what they wanted to do, because as of now, we have the numbers. We have like the mystery right in the back of our heads, like what would be their draft. But so far now, it's a Terizla that has been a great pick amongst all the teams and could be picked by Kazakhstan as well. As we go back to their lineup in their own match in day number 1, they're the first team to use Khalid.
Yeah.
Khalid, they have the Lapu Lapu, and they also used as well as the Lancelot. So with this, they have this kind of a way to answer your question, because there's an Angeling thing or a meta.
There is, yeah, there's something form in there.
So to answer that, you need to have that poke, you need to have that burst, you need to have that flashy highlight here that you can go through around the map. So it's not impossible for Kazakhstan to take either the Lancelot or even the Selena. They did the Selena. It failed in the first one, but it went better in the next one.
And that's funny that you say that, because flashy, right? But again, Aizen, even typically you don't put flashy and Terizla in the same sentence unless certain players, the way they play around, having that penalty zone and flicker combination, kind of doing things, that's flashy, right? But overall, Terizla's kind of like slow moving, and he's just a durable guy, right?
He has a heavy hammer.
Yeah, so that's what we'll have to see. But again, we're waiting to see the roster here for the next setup of players. But that's the thing, right? The matchup in the XP lane, I think, is going to be massive here for this entire matchup. Let's take a look at the roster here, OSX.
For Kazakhstan, we have Nori, Destroy, K, Neo, and Gordox, KZZ.
Yeah, so
I am
remind you, they changed it in the game, right? They made it a little bit easier.
Yeah, we will kind of do a new way of pronouncing their IGNs in-game, which is more easier, but we are seeing the same lineup for Kazakhstan on how they go with KSA on day number 1. Still the same thing.
Yeah, again, the execution from them, how they kind of, and we even heard from their coach, right? The coach mentioned they learned a lot from that game 1. The game 1 that they had that was streamed was quite one-sided, and they quickly came back for that reverse sweep, and they did it. Like you said, they had some interesting picks. I think that's something that obviously Mongolia has to be ready for, and I'm sure they're prepped for, right, at this point in the stage of the tournament. And at the same time, you know, when it comes down to it, whether they go and opt for those lineups that is the sustain, the healing kind of durable lineup, and again, we saw a lot of Brave Smite, you know, as we get to talk more about the emblems ahead of us. But just the way that things kind of work out, you've got to have an answer for it. And I think even from hearing, like I said, the coach from Kazakhstan, they're ready. You know, they've prepared. So what more a test against the dark horse of the tournament?
Yeah, from the interview as well of the coach of Kazakhstan, they're respecting everybody here in this tournament, and also having that confidence to not fear what they're up against, no matter what team. So this confidence, they're coming in from momentum. We will see now how it will translate this gameplay or their gameplay in their own matchup with Mongolia. Because as of now, we're looking at just stats completely with Mongolia. And to compare it with our experience here, coming in Riyadh, it's like tasting chicken biryani for the first time right here.
It's a surprise.
In Saudi Arabia. It's a surprise, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
They just want to keep eating it all over and over again.
I think that's what a lot of people felt like when they saw, if they were able to catch one of the streams in the other languages where, Mongolia was playing. People were like, wow, this is crazy. Because again, you had glimpses of them before in the past, right? But obviously things change, especially where we are in the current state of the game. But I think that's something that can be said. Also, we have to talk about the likes of YSS popping up once again, Yisun Shin and Novaria, Novaria has been banned out most of the time, right? And the fact that you have that combination, which we've seen them, if you've caught the stream before, you've seen them opt for that. So I'm wondering, again, does Kazakhstan just handle that with the draft? Like, do they just take that option out, but then do they kind of close themselves into fighting against one of those sustained compositions, though? Because YSS, we saw that banned once so far, at least for the live stream matches.
And Kazakhstan did that.
Yeah.
That was their last ban up against the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Ban out the Ling, ban out the Hayabusa, also the Cho, though, which is a comfort pick for Troll.
Yep.
So we might see a different way of prioritizing their own comfort picks over the power picks of Mongolia. But they're the only sole team to ban out the YSS. And in this current meta that we're talking about over and over again, it makes a lot of difference. YSS could be back in IESF.
Well, vision's everything, right? I mean, that's one thing, and that's the reason why, again, there's been kind of this rise with YSS again because of just the way, you are able to provide vision to your team, but then you pair that up so well with the Novaria, and it gets to the point where it's like, all right, they have way too much vision. How do we even get out of our base? Because that ends up what it feels like, right? And it's something to definitely handle here, which I said could be quickly taken care of if they just take out Novaria, for example, from the draft. And this is something that we've seen a lot of teams just opt to do, right? Just go ahead and ban it out. If they want to give up the YSS, feel free to. Because even if, let's say, the YSS slips through, I still think we could possibly end up seeing that same combination just because Ling is on the rise again. The resurgence of that combination is here. So, and really, if you think about it, and we were trying to kind of break that down yesterday when we saw that come up so much, is what is the answer for the mobility, at least the mobility and the sustainability? Hopefully, like I said, one of these teams kind of figures that out and presents itself over the course of today and tomorrow.
Yeah, we haven't seen a great Bane game in the jungle yet.
His best game was in the gold lane.
Gold lane. Just put him in the gold lane, and that's how your crab will work. The crab claw cannon, which can function as well as a good marksman here in the gold lane. As you say, non-traditional picks could show up again and again as the day goes by. And most of the teams here has the priority ban mostly on their own picks. We see Kadita, we see Cho, we see Kaja. You've mentioned about Novaria. We haven't seen Novaria paired up with something deadly. If he gets paired up with as well as the YSS, we're talking about combos here being made, duos. Like we can either see a meta pick that might show up, and that are just completely possibilities of what we might see on this kind of match.
Well, like I said, too, you got to have some of that change up in the mid lane. We saw a little bit of that, right, with the rise of Lilia coming to form and a couple of the other options, too. More so, though, people are just opting for those typical picks like the Eve, the Farsa, right? But this is, again, it could be part of that solution to deal with the way things are kind of falling into place. And also the kind of debate whether, once again, should we take these marksman picks in the gold lane or should we change things up, right? Because what we are seeing is some struggles even. For example, if you're parking a Wanwan there or a Beatrix in lane and you have to go against, that's why I said the Bane shines so well, right? Because the Bane was played into the Beatrix and it was just, it was an easy time for the Bane to farm up, get the gold he needed. And by that time, you have a lot more of that kind of presence around the map, right? As a gold Bane, I feel like
mobility.
Yeah, in the
you
jungle,
have the knock-up.
It's not so good.
Yeah, it's a working meta as we
A work in progress.
A work in progress. It's fine. It's okay.
Bane will get there.
He will. He will. He might get a good revamp as well. So we might see a different approach for Bane as the day goes by. But to mention more about how Kazakhstan is going around with their own meta, they use Clint that we haven't seen for
That was
such a
questionable
time.
too, though.
Yeah. They have their own ways. They have their own flavor. And as well as they keep on, they wanted to keep on using the Selena. And it works. Completely works from over and over again. And to answer more of your speculative question about the global scale of an assassin heroes being showed up on all of our matches of the day, Selena is one great one to actually cover a lot of places in the map. Have that burst, have that early game poke, have that early game momentum. And as far as we can see, that it's just the mid lane. You're right. You have the Farso, you have the Selena. More of the options of Kazakhstan to actually show up or maybe turn something or pick something new for against Mongolia.
The hardest thing here is just kind of playing around the snowball potential that we're in, you know, and that's something, like I said, we have to see from even for the rest of the games here, right, is because what we saw from day 1 and day 2, at least from even from Kazakhstan's games, is games can end pretty quickly if they get out of control. So
Yep.
I feel like one of the biggest things that has to kind of happen here is handling these momentum-based strategies, right? Because and you mentioned Selena. Now, is Selena that? Is it the hero to kind of help with that? If you're landing the arrows, sure. It's almost like we were talking about the Franco, right? When you have those hooks and they were just on point whenever. If the Franco is drafted and the hooks are on point, just like the arrows would be on point, then yeah, it's great. But if you're missing them, and then you're not able to follow up because that's really how it works, right?
Well,
you have a little bit of vision with the with the traps and whatnot, but really it's the arrows, just
Yeah.
like the hooks.
Either hit or miss, but you don't have the chance to have a quick millisecond response to have that team fight back at you. Because if you have those ways of having a good Franco game, you're having a good Selena game, it's a good way of dictating all of your team fights, but not missing them. As far as we go with the stats here, by just looking at the numbers, they're completely doing well with their own Franco hooks in our matches in IESF. And as well as the Selena. Yes, the start wasn't that good, but continuing their days and the matches as the time goes by, it gets better. So those are the possible ways of dealing with the, again, the Ling, the Angeling that we're seeing. Also the Alpha as well.
Yeah.
That we've seen from Team Philippines. And a lot of metas are showing up that can actually be in par with our drafting for the first match of the day.
They got the finger sleeves. You know, that's how you know they're ready. Because most players too, you see them using powder and whatnot, but when the sleeves come out,
it's a different thing.
it's a different thing.
It's playoffs mode.
It's exactly. It's playoffs mode.
For Mongolia.
Yep. And now, going back to that point too, is I love that the Alpha, has shown up again. I love that these heroes that typically weren't picked for the longest time are now showing themselves, right? And I think one of the biggest things too is just still we have more to see. There's more to come, for this tournament, because even the fact, like you mentioned, we saw Khalid come through. Yesterday we saw a few go ahead and pick Fredrin in the mid lane.
Fredrin that we not expecting because it was so flexible that it's being used in the EXP or the jungle. Now we're back in the draft.
Love it. We're talking about the Angeline combo so much, and you just completely get rid of it, the possibility of it. Just take out the link. There's the Selena. Homework is done. Again, this is day 3. We're the first day of the playoffs.
Okay.
There's so much information that they can build on and work on here. Now, Novaria being taken out helps with that strategy we were talking about with the YSS Novaria strategy that Mongolia likes to possibly do here or thinks about doing. Another thing is I wouldn't want to give away maybe the Drizzle, right? I'm not sure if that's first pick territory for Mongolia for Aizen, but let's see if this last ban is towards that from Kazakhstan, because Kadita was taken out alongside that Selena, so they're really kind of narrowing those options down.
Homework is showing up for Mongolia, banning out Selena as well as the Kadita. Kazakhstan used this against Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now comfort picks are being targeted with their mid lane player and trimming down more of the choices. So opening up the Cho as well for Kazakhstan. As you said, what would be the first base of choice for Kazakhstan? And it will depend on their final, not because their second pick. What is the trade that Mongolia is willing to give Because at some point, yeah, you've mentioned about Tirizla. Will Kazakhstan take out the Tirizla, which has been a massive power pick for Mongolia? They're letting it through. And will this be a Tirizla prior pick for Mongolia? But there's a lot of things at the table present for this one.
Even the way, like, let's say Tirizla does get picked up in this first priority pick, I think you still have quite a few things that you can do to handle that, to counterplay around. Biggest thing you have to just watch out for is really that initiation from him, and I think that's something that works so well. At least when you see the synergy coming through from Mongolia, that's what's noticeable, right? So we'll see what the game plan for them is too. They still have even Eve available if they want to go ahead and park that in the mid lane. Again, just one of those heroes that is commonly picked in the early phase of the game because it's such a safe option. It provides you a ton of utility to work around your objectives, and also the damage is pretty respectable too. There it is, right? There's the Eve, like we were saying. This is probably your best option. This also would possibly force Kazakhstan to think about taking up the Farsa, right?
Yeah.
If they really want to go ahead and go with that matchup, because then your mid lane is kind of this standard, you know, push and pull. And now, I don't know where that trend has developed, but now we got other players flexing too.
Yeah, speaking of flexing, now they've taken out the Eve. Kazakhstan right now probably might think of getting their EXP laner now, and also a marksman. Also, yes, they have used the carry as well twice in a row for their first match in the IESF. Yes, we have the EXP laner and the marksman right on cue for Kazakhstan, but this is a Uranus. They're still letting go of the Tirizla.
This is amazing too. I believe this is their captain here from Mongolia doing pretty much the drafting, right? I'm assuming that's what's happening here, and then from what I've heard, he's taking the notes, he's helping the team decide, you know, how to draft this out. They go ahead and just, this is a debut, right?
Wow.
We have Dairoth coming out
Up against
game number
Uranus.
1. Yeah,
Perfect.
And we have the Diggy.
And that was completely banned in all of the Kazakhstan matches that we've seen, and this debut pick was Mongolia's edge over Kazakhstan. Now they're taking up the Lancelot.
If they want to go this route, I'm still wondering, right? Because we have seen Dairoth go in the jungle. I'm not gonna say, you know, he's going in the jungle because it would be a great matchup against the Uranus.
Yes, could
Because,
be the
you know,
only one to just
yeah.
completely, as you said, sustaining lineup composition.
Yeah, but that's my point. Is anything that we've learned OSX up to this point is there's flexibility is happening in the current state of the game, and there's nothing, you know, you can't be 100%.
Still don't know yet.
You can be 100% on Eve.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, like carry and a couple heroes out there, obviously. But with Dairoth, again, naturally seeing him parked in the jungle a couple times, has it been successful? Maybe not so, you know, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. The last ban's coming out though too. I like that they answered that Farsa option, taking it out towards Kazakhstan, and then you see too Bane and Akai is taken out here because they're wondering too exactly what kind of jungle Mongolia wants to go with. If, you know, again, not the high chance that Dairoth is parked there.
Yeah, they're taking out the Bane. There's still no gold lane though for the side of Mongolia, taking out the Akai as well. So there's no jungler yet for Mongolia, and with this kind of option for Kazakhstan, they're doing it. Lunox probably might end. Well, yes, mid lane Lunox for sure. And this opens up more of Mongolia's chances to take the Tirizla now in the second phase. Still open though, they still don't have a marksman. So we have an XP laner and a marksman. Well, we're still hoping for this Dairoth to show up against the Uranus, but let's see how this goes. There's a lot of flexibility showing up from this draft.
If they just take the Tirizla and throw this Dairoth in the jungle, that's going to be a crazy, deadly combination. If the penalty zone is landed and you just line up that Abysm Strike. I'm not sure if that's where we're going with Mongolia. Let's just assume, right, the Dairoth is actually going in the XP lane versus the Uranus here. We'll see, though, because jungle options all have been narrowed, right? Typically that we've seen Bane in the jungle, now you have 4 bans towards that. Okay, there's our answer. It's going to be Hayabusa, who we've been wondering up to this point to day 3 OSX, where has Hayabusa been, right? At least on the live stream games. Well, now he's coming out here alongside the Beatrix in the gold lane. The response from Kazakhstan for the last pick is going to be the Kaja. This rounds out their lineup pretty well, right? But
yeah,
that's the thing. We have to see if this Kaja can be utilized to the best of its ability, which is just landing the right divine judgments. And we saw that struggle early on in the tournament, right? Where you didn't have those openings, you didn't have the initiation, and not only that,